AI video just got a huge upgrade. Kling 2.0 just came out, and this is seriously impressive. This might be the new king of AI video, but don't take my word for it. You can decide for yourself after watching this video. So in this video, I'm going to do a deep dive on Kling 2.0. I'm going to show you all the cool things you can do, plus compare it with some other leading video generators, and I'm also going to show you some limitations of it. It's still not perfect, but it's pretty damn impressive. So after some days of early testing, here's what Kling 2.0 is really good at. It's especially good for high action movements, complex scenes, camera control, and following your prompt. And honestly, the most impressive feature about Kling 2.0 is its image to video feature. This is where you can upload an image as the start frame of the video. Note that version 2.0 currently does not support using an image as the end frame, only the start frame. I'll also go over text to video in a second where you just create a video using a prompt, but that's less impressive. So here's our first example. Let's say I upload this photo of a man running down an alley being chased by this car. And then for the prompt, let's write a man runs through a narrow alley, flames lighting up the graffiti stained walls, a muscle car chases behind him, explosions and thunder in the background, trash and debris whip around. So a lot of chaos, a lot of things happening. And here's a really useful tip for Kling image to video. Always specify the camera movement that you want in the video. Otherwise, the camera wouldn't really move that much. So here I want the camera to track the man running, so it's going to follow the man as he runs, and then it pans to the right to reveal a massive explosion. High action. Alright, and here's our generation. How insane is that? So indeed, the camera follows the man and then it pans to the right and then there's a huge explosion in the background. This is a very high action scene, and note that everything remains super consistent. The man's face, his body, the way he runs, the car, the background, the graffiti, everything is just super consistent. We don't see any warping going on. That's common with previous generations of video models. So you can see Kling 2.0 is really good at following your prompt, especially if you specify how everything moves in the scene, including the characters, the objects, and the camera movement. And for your comparison, here's the same prompt with 3 other leading video generators, WAN 2.1, and then Kling's previous version, 1.6, and High-Low Minimax. And notice for High-Low Minimax, I even used director mode, which should follow the camera movements very well. So note that for WAN's example, the car just kind of warps in shape, and then the man kind of disappears. And then for Kling 1.6, the car is moving backwards. It's clearly a bad generation. And then for High-Low Minimax, the man is running way too slowly, the car is driving way too slowly, but I would give it some points in terms of camera control. It is panning to the right to reveal a massive explosion. But as you can see, Kling 2.0 just outshines all the other models in terms of high action scenes like this. Alright, here's another example. Here's an image of a woman being attacked by a zombie, and then this time, I'm just going to keep it simple, a woman attacked by a zombie. I'm not going to specify the camera movement, but I will add in these keywords, which are really useful. So high action and shaky camera. And here's what I get. So you can see this is indeed a woman being attacked by a zombie. She's terrified, she's struggling, the zombie is indeed attacking her, and this is high action, and the camera is shaky. And again, if you compare it with the other video models using the same prompt and the same input image, for WAN 2.1, she's not really being attacked enough, plus there's a lot of warping going on. She's like missing her left arm and then her left arm reappears again. Not very consistent. And then Kling 1.6, the woman just looks terrified, but the zombie isn't really attacking her. There's no struggling going on. And then for High-Low Minimax, again, it's just way too slow moving. I want a really high action scene with a zombie legitimately attacking the woman, and so far only Kling 2.0 can handle this. This is really impressive. Alright, here's another example just to show you how good its prompt following and camera control is. So here I'm going to upload a photo of this girl at a convenience store at night, and then here's the prompt. First, I want the camera to fast zoom up to the girl's face, showing a very scared and surprised expression. She then turns around, starts running away towards the background, trying to escape. The camera follows her as she runs down the street at night. High action, shaky, cinematic. Again, these are keywords I like to use. Plus, I always like to specify the camera movement. Otherwise, the camera would tend to remain still. And here's our result. Look at that. This is such an impressive generation. It's following our prompt exactly. It's first zooming up to the girl's face, showing a very scared and surprised expression, and then she turns around and starts running down the street. I am just so blown away by the quality of Kling 2.0. It's able to handle my prompts really well. And for your comparison, here's the same prompt with the previous version, Kling 1.6, and you can see the camera is not zooming in to show her face with a terrified expression. This is way less cinematic than Kling 2.0. Here's a fun one. I'm going to upload this image of a pilot in this epic space battle. And then for the prompt, I'm going to write an epic space battle between many spaceships, explosions and debris, high action, shaky camera. And here is what we get. Holy smokes, this is so epic. Trust me, I've tried this prompt with the other video generators and none of them could generate such an epic scene like this. This is unreal. From all these examples, I hope you can see how good Kling 2.0 is, especially at generating these high-action, complex scenes. Alright, next I want to also test its consistency at generating moving subjects. So here I've generated a photo of a man with a ton of complex tattoos on his body, and I want to see if Kling 2.0 can generate a video of him walking while keeping the tattoos consistent. So for the prompt, I'm just going to write a man walking down the street, and here's our generation. And this is beautiful. There are absolutely no errors that I can spot. This is super consistent. His tattoos do not warp over time, plus it even animates the umbrella and the woman in the background. Again, a very beautiful generation, and notice that if I do not specify the camera movement, then the camera just remains still. Alright, here's another crazy example just to show you how good Kling is at generating these high-action, chaotic scenes. So I'm going to upload this photo of some white-haired woman riding this ATV with explosions in the background. And then for the prompt, I'm going to write a beautiful Japanese girl with white hair driving an ATV in rugged terrain, dodging epic explosions and flying debris. Shaky camera, high action, motion blur. Again, these are keywords I like to use to make the video a bit more dynamic. Alright, here's what we get. Indeed, this girl is riding this ATV across this rugged terrain and dodging a ton of explosions and flying debris everywhere. Plus the camera is shaky with a lot of motion blur. A very beautiful generation, and notice that it keeps the character and the ATV pretty consistent across the entire generation. Her face, her hair, her entire body doesn't really change or warp over time. This is just so impressive compared to other video models. Alright, let's test its ability to follow our camera movements even more. So I'm going to upload this photo of a warrior standing on some glacier, and then for the prompt I'm going to write a solitary warrior stands atop a glacier cliff. The camera zooms out and rotates quickly until the sky is upside down. A flurry of snow and ice, motion blur, high energy. Let's see if it can actually follow this prompt. None of the other video generators can zoom out quickly and rotate until the sky is upside down. Alright, here's what we get. Holy smokes! This is such a ridiculous generation. And it follows our prompt exactly. The camera does zoom out and rotate quickly until the sky is upside down and there is a flurry of snow and ice. This is a pretty sick scene. Now, something I'm really bummed about is that even with all these AI advancements, with this intelligence explosion, we ain't seeing any cat girls yet. So let's create one ourselves. Here I'm going to upload a photo of a cat girl, which I've generated with Stable Diffusion, and then let's get her to do a heart shape with her hands. Let's see if we can figure this out. Alright, here's what we get. And indeed, she does a perfect heart shape with her hands. I mean, this entire scene is perfect. I can't spot any flaws with this. Now, instead of getting her to make a heart shape, let's upload the same photo, and then this time, I'm going to prompt her with "she is dancing." Let's see if it can animate that. Alright, here's our result. And for the most part, this looks really good. The only minor flaw I can spot is her fingers do kind of warp as she flings her hand around, but other than that, she is dancing super realistically. Her body looks and moves really naturally, same with her hair, plus her face doesn't change over time. In terms of character consistency, Kling 2.0 is definitely the leading model out there. Alright, here's another tricky example. I'm going to upload a photo of this woman dancing in the street, and let's see if Kling 2.0 can actually get a woman to dance consistently without any warping of her limbs like we've seen with previous video models. So here, I'm just going to prompt it with a woman doing a hip-hop dance, high action. And here's what we get. This is indeed a woman dancing, and for the most part, everything looks super consistent. Like, there's still some errors with her hands and fingers, but her face, her hair, the rest of her body looks incredibly consistent, especially if you compare it to other leading video models. They can definitely not generate a dance video as smoothly as this. Note that again, if I do not specify the camera movement in the prompt, then the camera remains still. Here's another complex photo with 5 unicorns, and the riders have some really strange, vibrant outfits. And this time, I'm just going to leave the prompt empty and click generate. And here's our result. The unicorns are galloping really realistically. The riders are also moving super realistically. There's absolutely no warping going on. But again, notice that if I don't specify the camera movement, then the camera remains still. So if I want the camera to actually follow the unicorns as they run to the left, then I'll have to upload the same image. And then for the prompt, let's write dynamic tracking shot following the riders. And with that prompt, here's what we get. Very nice. As before, you can see that there's absolutely no warping going on. The unicorns and the riders are moving super realistically across this desert, even though this is quite a high action scene. Alright, next I really want to test the consistency of Kling 2.0. Can it animate these super complex scenes while maintaining everything and not causing things to reappear or disappear or warp? So here the photo is a super busy and crowded marketplace. For the prompt, I'm just going to leave it empty. And for the most part, it's really good. I would say like 80% of the people are walking and moving properly, but we do see like some people over here appearing out of nowhere or disappearing, and then in the background there is a lot more warping going on. Plus, as this pink guy moves into the scene, there's also a lot of warping going on. So this is not perfect. There are inconsistencies, but this is a very challenging test image. And if you compare this with other video models, Kling 2.0 is by far the most consistent with the least amount of errors. Here's an even more complex test image. It's an epic war with a ton of soldiers fighting each other, plus with dragons attacking each other in the background. Super complex scene, and even in the original image, which is AI generated, some of the dragons in the sky are kind of messed up. So given this super complicated and imperfect scene, can Kling animate this? So for the prompt, I'm just going to put an epic battle of warriors and dragons. And here's our generation. Again, it's not perfect. There is some noticeable warping going on, like 20% of the time, I would say, especially as the dragon crashes onto the ground. And then some of the dragons in the sky do not look realistic, but I mean overall, like for 80% of the scene, it looks really good. Now notice that because I didn't specify the camera movement, the camera just remained still. So instead, I'm going to take the same image, and this time I'm going to write fast drone shot moving forward across an epic battle. And here's what we get. Holy smokes! Look at how epic this battle is. This is crazy. Notice that there's still a lot of inconsistencies and warping going on, especially with the dragons in the sky. But from afar, this scene looks really good and epic. Alright, here's a fun one. So I've uploaded this first-person shooter image, and here the prompt is soldier point of view holding a pistol, a swarm of zombies in the background, ruins, shaky camera following the soldier's steps. Suddenly, the camera pans quickly to the right, showing a zombie running forward, ready to attack the viewer. high action and motion blur. Let's see if it can handle this. Alright, here's what we get. And indeed, the camera does pan to the right, and then we do see a zombie running towards the viewer trying to attack him. Oh my goodness. A pretty scary scene. Notice for the entire video, the walls of the buildings and the horde of zombies remain super consistent. There's very minimal warping going on, and it's following the prompt so well. It indeed pans to the right and then generates a zombie running forward trying to attack the viewer. Kling 2.0 is just so powerful. Thanks to Monica for sponsoring this video. Monica is an AI assistant that provides access to the best AI tools all in one place. This includes the top AI models like GPT, DeepSeek, and Gemini, plus the top image generators like Flux and Stable Diffusion, and the top video generators like Kling and High-Law. This is a killer deal because you can use all of these in one platform for way cheaper than if you used all of these separately. You can use this as a browser extension on your desktop or on your mobile device. And their browser extension is context aware, so you can interact directly with any web page you're on. You can easily get Monica to reply to emails or summarize an article. So for example, let's say I'm on this page. I can get Monica to summarize this really technical article in just one click. And here's something even cooler. You can even generate a mind map from this content, which can help you understand ideas more visually. Note that this is way more convenient than just copying everything and going to ChatGPT to ask it to summarize the article. You can also use Monica to summarize YouTube videos. So here's an example. Let's say I'm watching this YouTube video. I can get it to generate a summary or even generate a podcast in just one click. Let's try this one. It even gives you a list of highlights with the correct timestamps. Plus, if you click on this, again, it's generating a mind map for you so you can understand everything more visually. With Monica, everything is just a few clicks away. But don't take my word for it, they have over 10 million users worldwide with a 4.9 star rating on the Chrome store. Try it out for free via the link in the description below. And when you're ready to upgrade, use my code AISearch10 for a nice discount. Full details in the description below. Here's another example. I would be so impressed if it was able to get this. So here I've uploaded a warrior holding a spear with a massive ancient Chinese god in the background. And then for the prompt, I'm going to write the warrior in the foreground leaps and flies towards the massive god in the background, getting ready to strike. Epic fly-through shot, tracking the warrior closely. Alright, and here's what we get. Indeed, the warrior leaps and flies towards the god in the background, and he gets ready to strike. There are some noticeable artifacts here as the warrior tries to strike the god. I mean, this is just a very high-action, complex scene, plus it's just not good at handling fight scenes yet. But nevertheless, still a very impressive generation, especially if you compare this with other video models. Alright, next let's test out different animation styles. So here's an anime example, here's the input image, and the prompt is a group of friends talking in a cafe, anime style. And here's what we get. So notice it couldn't really get anime characters to talk. For anime, I would prefer to use High-Law's I2V model, which is specialized for anime and non-realistic scenes. For Kling, you can see the mouth movements of some of these anime characters aren't really accurate. Plus, there are considerable errors with the hands and fingers of some of these characters. And I've tested this with 3 different anime scenes, and for each one, it just couldn't really animate the mouths and the fingers of these characters properly. So for your reference, here's the 3rd example. Notice there's a lot of warping going on with the hands and fingers, and the talking isn't really accurate. Now, instead of anime, let's upload this Disney Pixar style image, and then this time for the prompts, I'm just going to leave it empty and click generate. And here's what we get. Very nice. So you can see while this doesn't work well for anime, this works very well for this 3D Disney Pixar style animation. You can see all the characters move very naturally and consistently. By the way, that lizard looks super cute, don't you think? Alright, next, let's move on to text to video. So here we're not inputting an image as the start frame. We're generating the entire video just using a prompt. Now, I do not prefer this method just because it doesn't give me as much control. you might have to do a lot of trial and error and end up wasting a lot of credits. But nevertheless, here are some tricky prompts that I like to test with previous video models. So here, the first prompt is testing its ability to generate realistic-looking facial expressions. So here we have a woman laughing uncontrollably, tears streaming down her face. Alright, and here's what we get. She does seem to be laughing uncontrollably. The only flaw I can point out is she doesn't have tears streaming down her face. And by the way, this is the best of 3 generations. And for your comparison, here's the same prompt with the other video generators. So for this, it looks like Wan 2.1 looks the most realistic, with tears streaming down her face. Alright, here's the next example. UGC video of woman applying makeup. By the way, this stands for user-generated content. This is basically like TikTok-style video. Alright, and here's what we get. It indeed looks like a woman looking at the mirror and applying makeup. I don't see anything noticeably wrong with this generation. She does have 5 fingers on her hand. This looks pretty good. And then for your reference, here's the same prompt with the other leading video models. Alright, next, here's your favorite prompt, Will Smith eating spaghetti. Unfortunately, it did not generate Will Smith. Nevertheless, he is eating super realistically, plus he has 5 fingers on each hand. Now, Kling is known to be the best model at generating eating videos. And even though text-to-video cannot get Will Smith to eat spaghetti, of course, you can also generate an image of Will Smith eating spaghetti first and then plug it into its image-to-video feature. Alright, here's another tricky prompt which it could not really get correctly. So here the prompt is a street performer juggling torches while riding a unicycle. And you can see from this generation, he's not really pedaling on the unicycle, plus he's not really juggling. So it couldn't really get tricky movements like this correct. Alright, here's a fun one. A towering mech stomps through the city, crushing cars and tearing through skyscrapers. Civilians flee in panic as sirens wail and debris falls from the sky. A pretty complex scene. The civilians aren't fleeing in panic. They seem to be running towards the robot for some reason, but we do have a really cool looking mech robot stomping the city. So this is not a perfect scene, but in terms of consistency and the least amount of errors, I would say this is still one of the best models out there compared to competitors. Alright, here are some things it cannot do. So here the prompt is a cozy cafe scene where friends laugh and share stories over steaming cups of coffee, 2D anime style. It cannot generate anime. I tried multiple times with different prompts, including adding realistic and 3D for the negative prompt, but still it cannot generate anime style, at least for text to video. But as I've shown you before, you can always generate an anime image first and then plug it into image to video. Here's another prompt that I like to test, which strangely, a lot of the video models could not execute correctly. So the prompt is a princess wearing a beautiful glittery white dress running away from a massive dragon with glowing red eyes, Disney Pixar animation style. While it was able to generate this Pixar style, the woman is not running away from the massive dragon. She seems to be the one chasing the poor dragon down. Oh my goodness. What a feisty little princess. And for your reference, here is the same prompt with the other video generators. For this prompt, I would say Wan 2.1 handles this the best. Here's another limitation of Kling 2.0. It cannot generate text very well. So here the prompt is, a professor writes, subscribe to my channel on the chalkboard. And as you can see, he cannot write a single letter on the damn chalkboard. I've generated this a few times, and for all generations, the dude just cannot write any words on the chalkboard. And then here's another tricky prompt, 2 samurais fighting an intense sword battle. Notice that Kling 2.0 still cannot handle fight scenes very well. So here's what we get. Notice there's a lot of warping going on. The swords aren't really clashing. It's just not a good generation. But fight scenes are very challenging for the top video models. Like, none of them could really generate a fight scene correctly. I would say the best option right now for a text-to-image sword battle would be Alibaba's Wan 2.1. Alright, here's another tricky prompt, a woman breakdancing on the street. I gotta give Kling points for consistency. There's very minimal warping going on, her limbs do not bend in some grotesque shape or position, her entire body remains pretty intact throughout this dance, and she is attempting to breakdance. This looks even better than Raygun. So even though this is not great, this is still a huge improvement. And for your reference, here are the other video generators side by side. Now, if the prompt is a gymnast performing a perfect flip, Kling 2.0 kind of actually pulls it off. This is not a bad generation. There is some error with the girl's head as she flips upside down, but overall, this does look like a decent flip. And notice again the consistency of this. The body and the limbs remain pretty intact throughout the generation. There's very minimal warping going on. And then here's a classic test of a pair of hands slicing a tomato on a wooden cutting board. And it's able to slice this tomato super realistically. Definitely a huge improvement over Kling 1.6, which could not slice a tomato like this. The last thing I want to end with is the pricing. So this is a closed source paid model. You can sign up for free and you get, I believe, some free credits once you sign up. Plus, even for the free plan, you get monthly free credits. And if you want more credits, then you can also go for one of these paid plans. Another thing to note is that for both text to video and image to video, it costs 100 credits to generate one video using Kling 2.0. Alright, so that sums up my deep dive on Kling 2.0. Just to sum up my findings, the best feature to use for this is its image to video feature. This gives you total control over the starting frame of the image, plus it's really good at generating high action scenes, maintaining character control, and following your prompt. However, there are limitations to this, so their text to video feature is still hit and miss. It's marginally better than Kling 1.6, but there are a lot of things it still couldn't really get correct, such as generating text, or generating anime, or generating fight scenes. But then again, the other leading video models can't really do those well either. So hopefully that gives you a good sense of what this can and cannot do. Overall, I think this is indeed one of the best image models out there. But let me know in the comments what you think. And if you've had a chance to play around with Kling 2.0, let me know what other cool and impressive generations you were able to come up with. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week, I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.